ABS Productions, Scene 8, Take 1.
Welcome everyone to ABAS Seasonal Bonsai Series. We're in late November and it's time for our fall work. To begin our fall work, we're going to first take a look at the Shimpaku junipers. Since most of the work's been done on them for this year, there's not a lot to do right now. They're just going to go on the bench and continue to grow. Probably fertilize them in late February, early March. Take another look at them at that time. There's not really a lot to do, just to review the little guy. You can just see that he's been growing quite a bit. Our pre-bonsai is, since our pruning has grown quite a bit, there's still a little bit, quite a bit of juvenile foliage on it, but we're just going to let this guy grow as well, get strong, and then we'll do some major work on it probably next May. Intermediate is same deal, just growing right now. Most of the work's been done. Not a lot, really. There's nothing to do at this particular moment in time. So other than clean off the leaves that have fallen on it from your, trees around your benches, other than that, just letting it grow. Same thing with our more developed tree. We did major pruning, major wiring. It's starting to grow. I'm very happy that it's not throwing any juvenile foliage at this time. It's a very good sign. So this one is also just going to go back on the bench, get fertilized, and grow. We're going to do probably a dormant spray in maybe the middle of December. We'll spray them with lime sulfur to control pests. But other than that, that's what we're going to do until next February.
Okay, on to our tridents. Got all four, wildly different. So real quick on each one. This is our, let's see what happens to get a big trunk and let it grow. And it's, I don't know how tall that is now. So we're just gonna, I'm not gonna even cut anything off because this is back on the ground. And as long as it's not bothering anything, let it grow. Spring we'll repot it and take a look at the roots, pot it higher. And that's it. Nothing happens with this. Is what it is. Our second one, this is what happens if you fertilize really strongly. And I've had this happen with maples and tridents. They don't turn color. It takes forever. I've had it in mid-December and they still haven't turned color because I have so strongly fertilized them, which is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to grow it. So I'm not going to defoliate this, but we're going to deal with the root grafts and cut some of those off. This one's weak, so we're going to revisit that, probably not cut that one off. And that's going to be the extent of that one. Challenger, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And it's ready to be defoliated. So this is all going to be defoliated and then we'll relook at it. We have to cut off our root grafts. And then this is our primary branch that we let grow that is going to be the apex. And when we turn it around, you'll see this is really nice. And this is what you want to do with the sacrifice branch. And then, of course, we have Renee's very beautifully slow growing, slow and steady finished tree. And she'll talk about what's going on with that one. All right, we can start with our root grafts. And you can see This one's easy because it's growing out of the trunk, which is fine. So clean that up a little bit. There's sealant around it, but you can tell this is definitely fused. So I have no fear that this is definitely done. Okay, and that's going to form a lump there, and I don't care about that either. All right, the next one, they are, well, actually you can see the fuse right there too, which is quite nice. Let's see if this is big enough. Oh, there was a root there.
Ah, it's rooted on both sides.
It's rooted, and they do that. So sometimes you might want to cut it a little farther out if you want the roots on the other side also. So maybe I'll do that with this one. See what's happening. I think there's a root right there. So let's cut this here and leave that. So I may get roots out of there, and there might be roots underneath there also. This one, that's awfully weak. I can bend it so it's kind of facing where there's more light. And I'm going to wait until maybe even May. It's not in the way of anything, where the other ones are growing over the top and kind of shading it. This one's not doing anything, but it's still alive. So I'm just going to let this hang for a while. And then I'm just going to wait until, these are not ready to come off. They're pretty attached. So I'm just going to let this go. This is growing really slowly. I'm happy with that, although this is going to be cut back. But that can wait. Don't make big cuts now. And I'm not defoliating yet. So I'm done with this. And we wait. Okay, big boy. Ooh. So we're going to cut these off first. And these are beefy. But you can tell there's no way a root is coming out of here. It's going straight into there. So this can be cut off. Can I get my knob cutter? This is not going to, it'll cut, but I need to clean it up.
Knob cutter. Well, would this work? Oh.
So, would you have ever considered, before cutting that root off, since you need a thread graft, have you ever used a root graft or a thread graft?
No, and I can tell you why with this one. Okay. All right. Okay, so that looks better. It's all right. So you may be thinking, look how outrageously long this is. Could I use this for a thread graft somewhere, because it's there, and why not? But these were seedlings, so they are not genetically the same as this. If it was from a cutting of this, you could, but it's not. It's a seedling, and it would look odd at some point, either the shape of the leaf or the color. Yeah. All right, this one is in the soil, so it might have roots coming off of it. So I'm going to just cut that one right there. That's pretty impressive. That definitely grew. You know it's taking. I'm going to cut this back a little bit. And we will seal all of these. Same thing. This one I'm sure has roots coming off of it. And so when we repot in the spring, we're going to look at this and see what's been happening and add more root grafts as necessary.
Can you look at the other side of the tree and maybe show where the roots are coming out on the other side of the tree?
Can we see them?
If you go down a little bit, just kind of.
Are there roots there? They are down a ways. There's one right there. There's one right there.
Yep.
There's one right there. So I see three. There.
Yeah, you can see them here.
Yeah, and there. So they're taking, but we can add more if we need to. But hooray, we definitely need something over here, and probably over there because of the weird. But we'll see. That's going to be a difficult thing. That's a repotting moment. So then what we're going to do on this, let me flip it around so you can see it from the front. This is our primary branch, and is that almost 4 feet tall? something like that, this tall. We want this to be our thickest branch, so we're going to let this keep going, keep running, and it's already quite a bit thicker. And we're going to defoliate this. So when we defoliate, some of these leaves will just literally fall off, but you'd want to cut them if they don't just fall off. Actually, it looks like most of them will, but to be safe, depending on the species, you will cut them close there. And when they're completely gone, and we'll probably leave for a minute, when they're completely gone, we can look at the silhouette and see what we need to trim back to even out the growth, because some places are going to be longer than others. So, defoliate. All right. The front on this tree, I think, no, this is the front. We cut them, so yeah, you can't help. It might be just a hair over this way. This is our primary, this is an important branch and it's kind of going back, but we thread grafted that and that failed. So we're going to put another thread graft in that in spring when we repot. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whips that we've let grow that can be brought around for thread grafting. So we definitely need one there. I think we had one there, somewhere in there. So these two are really important ones. I think one there. So I think we have at least 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 on all the biggest branches. I think we have 4. This is probably going to get cut off, but I'm just leaving it for now. Don't know why. It's getting bigger. So we're not going to cut these back. We can cut, is this big enough to cut back? Right there, Renee? I almost think we should go, if I go here, then this will all blow out really strongly. If I cut it here, it'll grow out strongly here, but this will slow down.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm going to cut it there and there. So we'll get growth here, but if I want it down here. Then we'll relook at that in May. So here we go. You can see there's a bud there. There's all this stuff here. So, this doesn't matter. This is a temporary thing. I think that's dead. Nope. Okay. So this is going to grow, but I don't want this. I want that. Actually, this is heavy, but this is for a thread graft.
Weren't we going to cut it off?
This is here, and this is going to get cut off.
Yeah, that's going to be.
So that's fine. I could cut this there to slow it down a little bit.
Well, if we were going to use this for a
but
thread
if we
graft.
use it for thread graft, okay. So that's that. Same thing, that. All right. So then this part, I think was also going to be cut back. So the same thing. It doesn't really matter what's happening there until we get the thread grafts in, and we can't cut it back that far because we have those. So is there anything else on here that we can cut back? I can cut this back. Bud, I can cut right there. I can cut right there. Make that smaller. I'm going to cut this. Okay. And this is where I'm going to cut it, so I don't care about that. Just going to let that go. I think everything else, what about this one? This one could be cut back to there. So let's cut that. It's going up straight. Let's not take out too much. Okay. I think that's about all we're going to do. The rest doesn't really matter. And we're sealing. This is working out fine. Don't touch this. It's not, just make sure it hasn't pulled away from the edge, and it hasn't. This is where this is healed. As you can see, it's healed all along that edge. I think that's all we're going to do. Normally we would cut a lot of these back, but since this is all sacrifice, we're going to leave it. So we'll revisit, we'll repot it in the spring, and then in May, we'll do the defoliation and see where we are in May.
Okay, so this is our more finished trident maple. It had beautiful fall color. We've lost all the leaves, so now we're going to go in and do our light silhouette pruning and maybe do a little bit of thinning, especially on the top where you can see at the top here how dense and thick this is getting to be. So we're going to have to take some of this out to kind of keep it under control, and then work our way down the tree, make some decisions about things we want to keep, things we want to take out, and just go from there. So I'm going to start at the top and look to see what we can take out up in here to get this back under control. So if you can see in here, it's just there's a bunch of just really dense, thick things right here. So I would like to take something out of there that will lighten that up a bit. I'm going to start by taking this little piece out. Oops. And then we have, you can see, I cut that big, huge chunk out there. Now we have these other little things that are going to come in and kind of fill in that area and replace that. Let's see what else we have up here. This one is pretty heavy, although I don't see at this point, I'm not really going to take that all the way back. We have a little guy coming in here, which can fill in that area, but I'm not going to take it out just yet, because if I take this out now, this is just going to blow out and get too strong. So we'll just let this get a little bit longer and stronger before we take out that piece. What else do we have up here? Okay, this is kind of coming out the bottom of the branch, so I'm just going to take that off. See if there's something I can take off there that's getting awfully thick too. I'm not going to take that chunk out just yet, but I am going to cut this back. Cut some of these little tips off.
And what does that do?
It's just going to create back budding. We'll create some back budding. This is all pretty heavy here. Gosh, really like to take something out. Cut this back. Cut this back. Cut this back. Cut this back. I'm cutting back. If you can see where I'm cutting back to buds. I can see buds back there. So I'm cutting it back to hopefully get start developing a little bit better ramification. I'm looking in here. This piece is kind of coming over and interfering with this. So what can I take out here to thin that out a bit? See, this is smaller. This is a smaller branch. This is a heavier branch. So if I take this part out, coming up here, whoops, it's pretty woody. So now we have room for this to grow. This is the thicker branch, so cutting that off will slow this down a little bit.
Did you ever consider cutting that off because that bud on the bottom?
Actually, yes, you would, but it's not, I don't want to cut this off now. If I cut this off, this will grow too strong. It's kind of a balancing act. You don't want to cut off too much, because it will, all of the energy that's going into these tips will now be redirected to that one little tip. So this will just grow too strong. So you kind of leave this on here until this gets a bit stronger. So then you can control its growth a little bit better till it gets more ramified. Get some little bit of ramification on it. I'm just going to kind of cut back to the silhouette on some of these tips here. I'm just looking at the silhouette.
So when are times you cut silhouette versus cutting to bud?
Silhouette pruning is actually cutting back to a bud. That is what you're doing with the silhouette pruning. The thinning is when you act like this part. Anyway, when I took out this chunk, I mean, it was part of a branch, but it was interfering with this. So, yeah. See, this was interfering. There was too much there. So I cut this whole chunk out. That's called thinning, when you're actually taking out a section to allow, so it's not so congested. And you usually try to look for things that are thicker and cutting back to something that's finer growth. Especially on a trident, you know, they grow so aggressively and strong. The branches thicken very quickly. And like down here at the bottom, this was a bud that came out 2 years ago, and I let it grow too strong, and it got way too thick. So I'm going to end up having to cut this off and go to another, you know, this smaller branch down below. So you're always looking for opportunities to cut thicker branches back to thinner branches to keep it to improve ramification and to keep it from getting too heavy and thick. So let's take a look here. Like in this area, you can see there's 2 branches coming out there. You don't want them together, so I'm taking out the bigger one, the stronger one, and leaving the weaker one, because now we'll have this as a shorter internode on it. So when this grows, we can cut back and get a, you know, shorter internodes and finer branching. This one I'm just going to cut the tip off. Ideally, you'd cut back to these 2 stronger buds here, but I don't want to cut all the way back there because then they'll just blow out and get too strong. Eventually this whole chunk is probably going to go, because this is already getting way too thick. If you can see that, it's already way too thick. Probably going to cut that whole thing out of there. I want to do that right now. Should I do that right now? Sure. Or should I just take off part of it? You know, just take off part of it and let these grow a little bit more before I do that. Okay, working my way down. Put the wire on these guys. I could probably take this off now, although it's not cutting in. Here, this is an area where we have branches kind of butting up against each other. So I'm going to take off part of that. Oops. To keep it from growing over into this branch. Send the energy out this way into this guy. We have a nice branch back here, you know, but I don't want to cut it. I would like to cut it back to here at some point, but I'm going to let these get a little bit stronger before I do. These are left over from our last pruning. You know, you never cut all the way back. You leave a little nub when you prune back. So I always take those out at this time of year too, just to kind of clean up the tree, take out the nubbies. You can compare the strength of the growth on the top of this tree to, say, this branch. You can see the difference. So you can see how strong it is here and how much weaker it is down here. That's why you need to really keep the apex under control, because this is almost getting scarily weak to me. I'm going to take this one out. A little bud coming out here. This is good. We want to encourage that, because these are getting too thick. We're going to have to cut all of these really thick ones. At some point, we're going to have to cut them back. I need to take more out of the top too. Take a little bit more out of the top here. That's kind of going over into this one, so we'll take that out. That's good. Okay, we will leave that for now. Looking into the tree, let's see here. Go around to this side. What tips do we want to cut off here? We're just going to cut some of the tips off.
Will that branch be replaced?
Which one is that?
This.
This one, it would be nice to replace it. It's getting too thick.
No, I meant just this section right here, because you've got that new growth.
Oh, you mean this part right here?
Yeah.
Cutting it off there? Yeah, you could probably cut it off there. I would probably like to let this grow
Right.
a little bit before we whack it off. I can cut it back a little bit, but we'll let that get stronger. This coming in from the inside, that's not a good angle. I'm going to take that off. This is kind of an interesting thing right here. You can see this was a thread graft that I did. I added this branch. See, this is another place where it got way too thick. This is the opposite side. I left that on there because it was growing, and I thought maybe I could use that as part of a branch. I'm just going to leave it there for now and see how it buds out. Although it looks like it's dead to me. I think it's dead. I think I got to take it off. I thought maybe I could add something in there, but it's dead. Same thing here. This is a thread graft that I did. This is the opposite side coming out on the other side here. I thought maybe it would continue to grow. I left a couple of buds there thinking maybe it would grow, but I think it's probably dead. This is a problem. See, this is a thread graft, and it just grew way too aggressive. I wasn't on top of things. I let it get too heavy.
So there's no buds.
I don't see any buds back behind there. So I kind of have to live with it. I'm just going to live with it, but I'm going to take it back a little bit.
What if you cut it really strongly? So if there's buds, you'll find out.
I'll find out. I'll find out. Yeah, see? You think, oh, wow, I added a branch. But then it turns out it's really not that great. But we'll live with it for now. Sometimes you just got to live with things for a while. See what happens. But we have a whole bunch of little guys coming out in here. That's just going to get thicker and heavier. Don't want that to happen. And we'll cut it back. You know, if we're lucky, it may bud back. Who knows? Who knows? But at least, you know, in the design of the tree, when you're looking at it, it's kind of coming toward you, so you don't notice it quite so much. Anything that's coming, you know, off the bottom as well. If it's on a deciduous tree, you don't really want flat branches. You want them to be more cloud shaped. So you want a three-dimensional pad rather than a two-dimensional like in a conifer. So you want things going up, some things coming down. But if it's coming like directly off the base, like under here, probably gonna take that off. Okay, so we are continuing down the tree, branch by branch, pruning back to silhouette. And one of the important things to remember is that when a branch is over the top of a branch lower on the tree, it's not going to grow as strong. So you have to be careful that you cut back the branches on the upper part of the tree and leave the tips of the branches out beyond the profile of the branches that are above it, so that they don't weaken and die. I'm going to take this piece out because it's a little bit heavy, and we can cut back to there. Lighten that branch up a bit. You can see here, this one coming out the bottom. If I want to keep this part of the branch, I'm going to want to take this off down here. Okay, moving right along. I've got this. Anything else I can take off in here? I might just take this off and go back to those smaller ones. Always looking for opportunities to cut back large to small. I want to weaken this just a little bit because this guy looks like it's kind of getting a little weak. So I want to weaken the branch above it a bit. Let's just cut it back. Maybe we're going to just take it back to there. Let it bud out again. Kind of died, I guess. Okay, looking back in here, we have a lot of stuff budding out there. We don't need all of that or it's going to cause it to swell. This one's going back into the inside of the tree, so I'm going to take the middle out there. It's kind of back underneath there. I'm not sure how well that's going to grow, but we'll keep it and see what happens. See, this is another, you can see how weak this branch is. I'm going to just take a little bit more off this branch above it so this gets a little more light. So I'm not going to take a lot off of this one. I might just trim the tips, but it's pretty weak, so we're just going to kind of let it grow. Pretty weak. And one thing when you're thinning something, when you take foliage off, that gives the foliage that's there an opportunity to get stronger because the tree doesn't have as many tips to feed. So thinning will yield stronger growth on what remains. Now I'm on the bottom of the tree, so I'm a little more comfortable like cutting back to actually the buds that I want. I'm not as concerned about them blowing out as I am when I'm pruning the top of the tree. So I am cutting back to the buds that I actually want. Because this is a lot weaker section. This branch is kind of a weak branch as well. I might just thin it out a bit, get stronger. This section here, this is going kind of straight down. I'm going to take that out. You can see that it's going at a weird angle. Have this here, so that's good. Take that out. I'm going to take out the center here, get ramification there. Get division. I'll leave that. Might even want to take that back farther. Okay. So now we're getting down to this section. On this branch, in the previous video, the decision was made to leave this on here to get this a little bit stronger. I think I'm going to leave it on and possibly for a thread graft later next year, adding another thread graft somewhere in here maybe, not sure. At this point, it isn't to the point where it is too heavy. So I'm going to leave it, maybe use it for a thread graft, maybe not. If it starts growing too aggressively in the spring, we may have to just take it off anyway. But for now, I'm going to leave it. This, wow, that's at a bizarre angle. I'm just going to take this off. We've got these buds back here. These are the ones that we want to encourage to grow. so we can get better ramification on the branch.
But you're not cutting back to them because it's
Because this is see how strong this branch is? It's a lot stronger than everything else, so I don't want it to blow out.
if it was the branch next to it, the skinny one.
The skinny one, I might just cut back to it, yeah. Okay, and I think we had talked about in the last video also, there was this piece coming out that I decided to leave on there just temporarily. And I think it's time to take this off. This is getting really heavy. I'm going to take this whole chunk off because we have this coming out here. This will, we'll develop this out into this branch. I'm going to take this whole chunk out. Wow, that got so heavy. They just get heavy. So you've got to watch them really close. It happens so fast.
So are you going to eventually cut it to there?
Well, I was just trying to decide if I wanted to do that right now, cutting it to there.
But the angle of this coming off is really nice, going up. Can you just cut it back somewhat and then wait until May?
See what happens. And this, you can see there's 3 things coming off. It's a whirl. So I'm going to take the stronger part off, the heavy part here, and just leave the 2 smaller pieces. Oops. This is very heavy too. Oh, yeah, that's right. We talked about we're going to leave this for now. These are the buds that we really want to encourage. But for now, we're going to leave this on so they don't get too strong. Moving into this area. Let's see. So I'm looking at the profile. I can't really cut this back too much because this is already out to here. Probably just cut some tips off. And this, I don't like this out here. It's kind of ugly. I'm going to just go ahead and take that whole thing off. We have this coming out. This is a new shoot. I'm probably going to leave this here and wire it. Okay, now we get down to this branch. So this is eventually going to go, this big chunk right here. This got just way too big. Probably I'm going to cut it back right now. Cut it back to there, to there. This is the branch. This whole thing's going to go. This is going to be our new branch. We have 2 nice buds right there. And there's
buds there.
And there's buds there too, yeah. Hopefully these will pop. If these pop down here, that would be perfect. There's 2 buds right here, very close to the base. Very, very long internode. This is not aesthetically pleasing whatsoever. So if we can get those 2 to pop back in here close, perfect. If not, fail safe, these 2, and then we can start the branch from there, which would be much better than this.
And you can't cut the heavy one now because it's a heavy cut, or it'll blow the other.
Well,
Repeat my question.
Yeah, it might. For right now, you're not supposed to do heavy cuts right now anyway, and that's a pretty heavy branch. I'd probably prefer to wait until like in May to cut that off. But it will help pull energy and keep these from budding. These, hopefully, if they bud out, it'll draw the energy and keep the inner nodes shorter on these newer things, because you don't want an inner node that long. That's just way too long. So hopefully by leaving this until like next May, let these grow out in the spring. This will draw off a lot of the energy from these, hopefully get shorter inner nodes on these and start a nicer looking branch. See, this inner node here is way, way, way long. I'm just going to cut this back. This is eventually going to go because we have these little guys. These are nice little guys. They will form the branch, or they'll form the ramification in the branch. Same thing here. This is a very long inner node. Hopefully we can get something. We have these little back buds here. So this would be better to start back here. These are all really long inner nodes. Too long. We would like for these guys to grow. So I'm leaving this to grow while these grow. So this will take the energy, keep the inner nodes on these guys shorter, and then at some point, maybe next year sometime, we can cut this off and start developing the smaller ones with the shorter inner nodes for our branch. Does that
Same thing with that branch too.
Pardon?
Same thing with this branch.
With this branch, yes. I'm leaving this to draw energy so these don't get too strong. So this branch looks kind of crappy right now, and it's just going to stay looking that way for a while until we get some smaller things popping out from the back. See this little guy here, you can see this has nice short inner nodes on this. So this is good. It's fine, nice, short inner nodes. That's a good one. This isn't quite so bad. Probably needs to be wired once it leaves out and starts growing. I think that's about it for now.